So super excited to talk to you about these advanced features that we have that we're going to go just beyond the basics with Microsoft PowerPoint. Microsoft PowerPoint is one of these applications that you can do so much in that I see people's presentations all the time and they don't really take full advantage of the capabilities that can actually be super easy to use once you understand them. I think a lot of times we look at the ribbon and we get intimidated by the different aspects of, what is this? I don't know what this feature is and I'm afraid to click on it because it might do something. So we just stick to the very basics, which can be just fine. But when you want to take it a little bit further, that's what we're going to be talking about here today. So what I want to start with today, and I'm going to open up a presentation that I have already available here, is one of the big things about when you create a presentation, whether you're doing it through Copilot, um, if you have a Copilot license, you can of course have Copilot create the presentation for you, and I do more of that than I probably should these days, but taking a presentation and making some modifications to it is highly recommended. So if you start with a blank presentation and you start from scratch, this is what it ends up looking like. You're just in a blank presentation. You have to add your own slides in. And every time you add a slide, it automatically gives you a specific layout. So when you first come in, of course, you're going to see in a blank, you'll see a title slide. That is one of the layouts that come by default. So just to explain what I'm talking about, I'm going to add one more slide from the home tab of the ribbon here. And when I did, it automatically assumes that I want it to be a title and content layout. So just to explain that a little bit further, on the home tab of the ribbon in the slides group, there is a drop down for layout. Layout allows you to change the placeholder settings depending on the content you're going to be putting on your slides. So if you're going to be doing a comparison, you could use that layout. It gives you the different placeholders. It gives you a title for each side. So if you're kind of like doing a pros and a cons kind of a thing, all of that is great to be able to have available. But a lot of people don't realize this, but it can be customized. You can say, I want to have branding with my presentation so that every time I come to create a new presentation, I want to use my company theme. I want to have my company logo be available, whatever the case might end up being. So we can actually modify these layouts that it comes with by default, or we can create our own layouts. So I'm going to start with just kind of talking about this blank presentation. This is what we get straight out of the box with Microsoft. So what I'm going to do is actually go to the View tab of the ribbon. And from there, there is this group on the ribbon called Master Views. I'm going to open up what is called Slide Master. This takes us to the background of all of those slide layouts. So what you're going to see on the left-hand side is every time that you change to a different layout, that is going to be one of the slides on the left. So each layout is available. Now, the very top slide is actually the master of all of them. So whatever changes you make on this master, it's automatically going to update every single slide. So let's say that every time you do a presentation, you want your company logo to appear at the bottom right or wherever. You could do that on this very top slide. So all I have to do is go back to the ribbon, which by the way, if you notice on the ribbon, when you are in the Slide Master view, you have a new tab on the ribbon. I'll come back and talk about that tab here in just a second. But I'm going to go to the Insert tab and I want to insert a picture from this device. I'm going to go out and find a logo. And I'm just going to do a search for logo here real quick. Oops, sorry. I wanted to be in there. Let me search for logo. And I'll just bring in this agent's logo. So I'm going to say I want to insert this agent's logo. All I have to do, and by the way, if you noticed on my left-hand side, as soon as I brought that in, you can see it everywhere on every slide layout on the left. But I'm going to resize it, and I'm actually going to place it down at the bottom right. So every slide can have that logo automatically be there. So whatever it is that you want to appear on every slide, you have the capability of doing that by going to the left-hand side, going to the very top slide. But if I just want to modify every time I do the title slide, if I want to modify just that, I go to the left-hand side, I click on the slide layout for title slide, which is the one I'm showing you right now. If I want to have a different font, or I want to have a background color, or I want to have a arrow or some other object to appear all the time here, I could go to the Insert tab or use my formatting options. So if I select this placeholder where the click to edit master slide title, I could go to the Home tab. I could change the font size. I could change the font that I want it to be using so that every time I use that slide layout, it automatically uses whichever option I pick. So I'll just pick one that's old that you can recognize, and just so you could see how that changes. Now, of course, if I wanted it to be anything else, I just go to whatever that option is and I can automatically change it. So every time I create a title slide, that's the font that it's going to use. Now, of course, I can go back and change it to whatever I want to again. So whatever you pick, it's totally up to you. I could go to the Insert tab, and if I want to add in a shape, like I want to have an arrow, I could come in and I could draw that arrow, which I'm drawing it, of course, with my Shift key held down so it goes in a straight line, because otherwise I'm not very good at that. And then I'm just going to change the weight of it to be a little bit thicker. I could change the color of it. So whatever it is that you want, you have the capability of adding them, but the objects and the things that I'm doing are only going to be on that specific title slide. I could do the same by going to the next slide on the left-hand side. This is the typical title and content slide layout that we use on a very regular basis. If I click in that title box at the top, I'm going to go back to the Home tab again, and I'm going to say I actually want the title to be centered every time. And I also want it to be this size and this to be this size, and I want to have a placeholder for a picture or whatever, we could do all of that. So just so you know, you could continue down the left side, going to each slide and making different changes to any of the layouts. And if I go back to the ribbon and go back to the slide master, if I wanted to insert a new layout and create it on my own, I could go to the left-hand side and do that. A little bit beyond our scope today. But if I wanted to edit the theme, if every time that I come into this presentation, I wanted to have a specific theme, I could choose what theme I want it to use. So here's our list of themes. If I want this to be the theme, whatever theme it is that you pick, you can have it automatically be updated to that theme. So just so you could see, you have that capability of doing that if you so desire. I'm not going to choose a lot of these. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna go back to the standard Office one, but just so you could see that you could change the theme there automatically. When you are done working with your slide masters, go back to the slide master tab on the ribbon, and on the right-hand side, click close master view. That will automatically close it, and now you're back to the original presentation where you're going to put in your content, or have Copilot put in the content for you. And the logo that I had added is automatically here. If I go back to slide one, the title slide, you can see that arrow that I had added is automatically there. So take advantage of, I have seen so many times that people want their logo to appear at the bottom right corner of every slide, and I see them manually do it. Definitely don't need to do that. You have control over what happens on your slides with each layout. So anyway, if I wanted to create a presentation that this is all about Microsoft PowerPoint and how to use it, of course, I could be putting in my title, and I can put in my subtitle, and we could say it's beyond the basics, whatever it is that we want it to have for our information. Then we go and we continue to add in more slides, or we can go and we can change our layout. So whatever layout it is that you want to choose when you're adding a new slide, it's going to automatically give you that logo appearing at the bottom right. If you need to modify it, or let's say that you decide you don't want this one to have that logo, you can't just select it. It's not an object that can be selected on the slide itself. It has to be done through the master. The master controls what happens by default on each of the slides. So kind of cool that we have that, but just so you're aware of those changes that you can make, but you have to do it back in the master. Okay. Now, of course, if I go back to the other presentation that I had open here, this is a project management fundamentals. I created a million years ago. And if I want to do any changes to the layouts here, just so you could see, if I go to layout, looks very different because I'm using a different theme than I was in the Microsoft default theme. Let me explain. If I go to the design tab of the ribbon, this is where you can find all your different themes. Whichever one you click on, it automatically updates every slide to match, which is going to change your layouts. So if I go back to the home tab and I go to layout, all the layouts are going to match the current theme. So highly recommend that before you get started to create or apply the theme that you want it to use so that you don't go back and you're not modifying your presentation multiple times because, I got all the slides created. Now I decided to change the theme, and now it changed where everything is located on every slide because it's using different layouts. So now you have to go back and adjust everything. So choose the theme first, then add in your content. So just so you could see, if I wanted to add in another slide, I could do that. But if I go to that new slide and click on the drop down, I can just simply choose which layout I want. Now, each theme can give you different layouts. This layout where it has insert picture and then it has add text, this is not a normal layout that you would get in the default Microsoft template, just so you're aware. And one more thing on this before I transition to another topic here. If you go to if I go to the File tab and I say I want to create a brand new presentation, you could always start with a template. So let's say that I want to do a sales presentation. I could type in sales in the search box and it's going to automatically find every template that is available for sales, whichever one I choose. It's going to give you a preview. And if I say, yeah, that looks great, I'm going to click create. It automatically creates the presentation, giving you slides already there. And it's using a different theme. So we get different layouts. So if you wanted to have your logo appear at the bottom right corner of every time it's using title and content layout. So just so you could see, if I go to layouts, here's all the different layouts. Very different from the last ones that you saw. But if I want to modify this one with my logo, all I have to do is go back to the View tab, click Slide Master, and I could choose the very top one so that it adds the logo to every single slide. So if I go back in and I say I want to go to this device and I want to search again for logos, just so you could see how this could work. I could do this agent's logo, insert it. Notice on the left-hand side, you could see that ginormous image. But if I shrink it up and I put it at the bottom right, every single slide layout is going to include that. So if I go back to Slide Master and close that, my logo is at the bottom right corner every single time. So I can do that master slide with any template, doesn't matter. With any theme I am using, it can be modified. So if this is something you haven't been doing, or you really didn't understand these layouts, highly recommend doing these kind of things, but pick your theme first. That really is very helpful. Or start with a template. I start with templates all the time because why not? It gives you objects. It gives you these slides already created that you just go and modify or add in your own content. It's pretty cool to be able to do that. But anyway, let's move on to a new topic because there's so many different topics we have available. Let's say that I'm in this presentation. Um, Actually, I should probably go back to my project management one. Let me do that. So I'm back here in my project management, and I'm going to go back to the design tab, and I'm going to do more of a generic design here. I'll just pick this design for right now. So anyway, just so you could see, and I'm going to delete that slide. So when I come into this presentation, let's say that I'm on a slide that is talking about portfolios, project management portfolios. And let's say that I want to add in a new slide right after this one. I'm going to go to the home tab of the ribbon. I'm going to say new slide, and I'm going to pick what kind of slide I want to add in. And I'm actually going to be adding in a title only slide. So I'm going to choose this one called title only. So it's going to give me a title at the top, and then I can do whatever I want on the rest of the slide. Well, what I want to do is actually add in video. On a slide, you can add in video and audio. So I'm going to add in a video. If you go to the Insert tab of the ribbon, that's where you go to Insert Objects, and video and audio are on the right-hand side of the ribbon in the Media group. If you go to Video, you could choose a video that you already have saved. And by the way, sometimes I do this right on the title page of a slide, because what if I'm creating a presentation for new employees? And we want to have a video that we had recorded of the CEO of the company welcoming that person to our organization. We could add it directly on that first slide. And then when somebody starts their orientation on day one, they can go through this and it can run on its own, called a slideshow. It can automatically run on its own. They can watch it and it can look like a movie. And we could have this video of the CEO welcoming them. But so if you have a video on your device, you could do that. And let me just kind of show you how that piece would work. So let me go down to my, PowerPoint folder. And I have this video of this really cute little butterfly. So I could have this butterfly video be right on this slide, and I can move it, I can resize it, whatever it is that we want to do with it. But notice that you have a new tab on the ribbon. You have a video format. You also have a video playback. I usually go straight to the playback because when I go to this slide, what do I want the presentation to do with this video? Do I want to talk and then click an icon to run the video, or do I want it to automatically start as soon as I go to this slide? So in this video options group, you could choose, by default, it's on click. But if I click the drop down, I can say automatic. Do I want it to play full screen? Do I want it to hide when it's not being played where you can't even see it? I could loop until we press escape or stop it, click a stop button, all kinds of different options. We can have it fade in, we can fade out, lots of different choices. But how is this going to work? Let's say that I go back to slide one and I go to run this presentation. As it runs this presentation, just so you could see, I've got some animation that's in this presentation. We'll talk more about that here in a minute, because you're going to learn how to do that animation and transitions. But here's that video where I told it to automatically run. So pretty great that we have that capability of doing that. Now I'm just going to end that presentation there, but just so you could see, that's one way to add in a video. Now I'm just going to select it though, and just so you could see, when I'm selected on that video, it does have a play button down at the bottom. So if I just want to be on it and play it to see, make sure how it works and stuff, I don't have to run the presentation to do that. I could just play it on my own. But if I change my mind and I want to bring in a video from online, I can do that as well. So I'm going to delete this one just to show you another option of bringing in a video. Back on the Insert tab of the ribbon, on the right-hand side, I'm going to go to Video, and I'm going to actually say Online Video. So I could actually go out to the internet, find something that I want to bring in. So I just happen to go to YouTube. I have a Stephen Covey video, and I want to bring that into the presentation. I can copy the URL at the top and back into PowerPoint again. Let me show you how you would insert this. Oops, sorry. Let me get back to PowerPoint here. I have so many presentations open. I want to get back to my getting started with PowerPoint. So I had gone in and said insert video, and I said online, and I am just going to paste that URL, and it automatically, I just click insert, and it automatically brings that video in. Where once again, we have the tools on the ribbon that we can go to playback and say, I want it to be clicked when I play it, or I want it to be automatically running, whatever your case might be. Now, I'm not going to start my slideshow from the beginning. Again, I'm just going to start it from here by going to the slideshow tab of the ribbon. I'm going to click slideshow from current slide. I want to run it. It's not running the video until I actually go to the video and click to play. So we could be doing some discussion on the video prior, then we can click and it's going to automatically run that video, just so you could see that we could do that. I click again and I can stop it. So if I'm going through and I'm explaining to people, you know, this is how this is going to work, blah, blah, blah. And we want to pause because somebody had a question or whatever. We're just clicking to start and stop the video from running. But I'm going to go ahead and end that show just so you could see different ways of bringing video in to a presentation. Now, I'm just going to delete that video object. Of course, I could have resized it, done all kinds of different things, but let me actually give you another option on the Insert tab. On the Insert tab on the right-hand side, you might want just audio. So if you have let's say that you're in marketing and you want to do a presentation showing, okay, here's our radio ads that we have coming up, here's our TV ads, or whatever your marketing is going to be, you could have those videos automatically in your presentation that automatically run when you go to those slides, or you can have your radio recordings, whatever it happens to be. So if I go to audio, I could record the audio, or I could say audio on my PC, where I could go back out to my audio, where if I want to go back into my PowerPoint here, I have this little soundtrack. I can have it automatically insert that soundtrack. Now, what it does is it brings it in with an icon of a speaker. If you don't want to see that icon when you actually run this, you go to the playback tab again, and you could say, click to start it, or you could say it's automatically going to work, and you can hide it during the show. You don't have to hide it on the slide when you're just in the slide, but you hide it during the show. So that will automatically play when we actually run that presentation. So you may or may not be able to hear that sound, but just so you know, it was playing that sound as soon as I did that slideshow. So pretty great that we have the capabilities of doing that. I love being able to add in video and or audio, and it actually can be a part of your presentation that you can have timing set up. You can cut out parts of the video where you can trim it. It has a lot more advanced features than what we're discussing here today, because we're doing a beyond the basics, not a true advanced one. But anyway, just so you know, you have those options. And there's, of course, instructions in your handout on using those. And on page 8 of your instructions, your handout, you will find information on transitions. Transitions are how your slides move from one to the next. And I generally change my view to change my transitions. I go to the bottom right of the status bar and I choose the view called Slide Sorter. You can also, of course, go to the View tab of the ribbon, and you can actually go to the left-hand side and click Slide Sorter from there as well. What that does is it's going to show your slides. And if you're using sections, mine happens to be in sections where I have my intro section, I have my PM section, and I think that's the only sections. Oh, and then I have a lesson 1 section, etc. So it's organizing my slides based on my sections that I've inserted. But what you can do is when you look at your slides in this view, you have the capability of selecting multiple slides at one time, and you can then apply transitions to multiple slides at once. So if I want slide 3 and 6 to have the same transition, I click on the slide number 3, it has the number of the slide at the bottom left, and then I can hold my control key down and click on slide number 6. Then when I go to the ribbon, I'm going to go to the transitions tab, and you're going to see this gallery of all these different choices. Less is more. It should be related to the content on your slide. But if you click this drop down, you could see subtle category, you could see an exciting category and a dynamic content category. So if I want to do something like a vortex, which I probably would never use too much, but you could see a preview of it right away when you click on it. Or if I click fracture, it's going to automatically allow us to see, or wind, or whichever one. We can get a preview of how that's going to look prior to you choosing it. So let's say that on slide 4 and slide 9, I want to have a different one. I just want to use a push. If I choose push or wipe, some of these other ones, on the right-hand side, you have effect options. So if you want to modify the direction that it's pushing or showing up as, you could go to the drop down, and by default it was coming up from the bottom. But if you want it to come from the left or come from the right or come from the top, etc., it's totally up to you. You can modify the direction that things are going in. So it's a matter of selecting the slides that you want to apply the transitions to. Now, do I apply transitions to every slide? Well, I used to. I don't anymore. I've gotten smarter and more business savvy on how these work. And if I'm going to have a lot of animation on a slide, I don't always need transitions and animation, all depending on the type of presentation I'm doing. And what that means is somebody going to be clicking to advance the slides, or is it automatically set up that it's going to advance the slides after 5 seconds, 2 seconds, those kind of things? We can do all of that. We can say what we want to happen, when should it go to the next slide? So if I'm going to talk more on one slide versus another, we have what is called timing. So let me explain that real quick. So if I'm on slide 1 and I don't need to be there very long, and this is going to be a self-running presentation where I'm not going to manually click, I could actually go to slide 1, and on the timings group of the transitions tab, I can set up how we are going to advance. So I'm going to unclick the mouse click, because that's what we do by default. We just click our mouse and we go to the next slide. Otherwise, we can actually say after this many seconds, I want it to automatically go to the next slide. Then if I go to slide number 2, I could uncheck the mouse, and I could say I want it to automatically be after 5 seconds, automatically transition. So we can control that transition from when it's going to advance to the next slide. So it depends on, do you want to click to navigate to the next slide on your own time? Or I've done presentations with 5,000 people in the audience, and I had it so well rehearsed that I had it all set up that I knew I was going to spend 3 seconds on this one, 5 seconds on this one, 8 seconds on this one, etc. And it would just automatically do that advancement while I was talking. That was back in my Microsoft days. But anyway, just so you know, you could do all of that, which is pretty fantastic. Now, how does this look when you go to run the presentation? Well, let me show you. If I run this from the first slide, it's going to automatically, after 3 seconds, go to the second slide. Then after 5 seconds, it's going to automatically go to the next slide. So just so you could see how that would automatically work. Love that control of being able to do that. But like I was saying, I don't always apply a transition to every single slide. If I have a slide that I'm going to be using animation on, which I'll explain that in just a second, I don't always want a transition and animation because it might be a little bit much, and I don't want to lose my audience. I want my audience to be paying attention to the presentation, not what I'm going to do next for animation or transitions. Because some of those transitions, like vortex, it can make it into a paper airplane and fly it across the screen, that kind of a thing. You lose your audience sometimes. And so you got to kind of think about, how is this going to be for who's my audience? If it's a very, very professional audience, less is more. But if it's I'm going to go do a speech to high school students, I might jazz it up just a little bit. So you got to kind of know who your audience is before you start applying all this. Now, I could spend all day just talking to you about etiquette when it comes to using presentations, but we won't worry so much about all of that here today. I just want to show you the tools that you have available. But anyway, how do I know if a slide already has animation or a transition to it. Well, the great part about it is in this view, it allows us to rearrange slides and easy to be able to select multiple slides and get that live preview and all of that. I love this view for that. But also when you're looking at the bottom of each slide, slide numbers on the left, but on the right-hand side, I can see the timing that I had added. So if I look at slide 1, there was 3 seconds. Slide 2 had 5 seconds, and I know there's an animation or a transition on slide number 2 because I see this little star icon. If you click that star, it will do a preview of whatever the animation or transition is on that slide. And slide number 2 is actually doing animation by bringing in one paragraph at a time, which I'll show you how to do in just a second. So if I look at the slide number 3, it has this star at the bottom right. So if I click on it, I knew that it had transition or animation on it, and it will automatically run the preview. You can see the same thing in your normal view in PowerPoint. If I double click on slide 1, that will take me back to normal view. And when you're looking at your slides, you could see the slide number on the left-hand side. And also if it has an animation or transition, you'll see the little star icon. If you want to preview it, you click on that little star icon and you get your preview. So if I go to slide 3 and click on it, it shows me the preview of the transition. So I'm not seeing the timing in this view though. I don't see that 3 seconds, 5 seconds that I had done earlier when I'm in normal view. So I'm actually going to switch back to slide sorter view for a minute. So slide sorter view has its great options. I could take a slide and rearrange it in normal view or this view by just clicking and dragging it. But what I do with this also is I zoom down and let's say that I have specific slides that are similar to each other and I want the same transitions on each of those. This is where your control key really comes in handy because you can then be selecting multiple slides at once in this view very easy, not as easy in the normal view. Then go to the transitions tab again, and then you could go ahead and choose the transition that you want to apply, or go to the options and you could choose which direction you want that motion to go in, those kind of things. So absolutely love that. So transitions are moving from one slide to the next, just so you're aware that that's what we're referring to. But let me talk about animation. We cannot do animation in the slide sorter view. So I'm going to double click on slide 1 or whichever slide I want to go to. Like let's say that I want to go to slide number 3. I could double click slide number 3 so that it automatically opens me to that slide. And let's say that in this text box, this object, this placeholder where my text is located at, I want to animate these items. I want every one of these paragraphs to come in one at a time as I'm talking. I can select the entire object by clicking on the border on the outside edge. Then I can go to the animations tab. Just like with the transitions, we have this gallery of choices going across the top. Very common for paragraphs of text to come in one at a time is to use what's called the fly in. I'm going to click fly in. You'll see a preview. But what it was doing is bringing the whole object in. But I just want text, one paragraph at a time. If I go to the right-hand side of this gallery, I can see effect options. If you click effect options, down at the sequence group at the bottom, I can say I want all at once, or I could say by paragraph. I'm going to choose by paragraph. So I want one paragraph to come in at a time. Then I can actually go back to the effect options and I can say what direction do I want them to come in from. Do I want them to come in from the bottom left, the top left, the right hand side? What direction do I want them to come in from? And I'm going to say from the right. So just so you could see how it will come in, you get that preview. So what it's doing is you could see these little numbers. These numbers are letting you know this object is the first one coming in. Then it does number 2, then it does number 3, then it does number 4, number 5, etc. So that's the groups, how it's going to bring it in. but you have more options you can do. If you look at the ribbon on the animations tab, on the right-hand side, do I want to click to advance the next object to come in, to do the next animation, to bring that next paragraph in? Or how long do I want it to last? How quick do I want it to bring it in? And what is the delay from the next one coming? So if I want to delay by, let's say, 1 second for the next paragraph to show up, I could go to this delay and choose 1 second so that when I run this, I'm going to run this presentation so you can see what's going to happen from this slide. It automatically will bring in one paragraph at a time, and it's going to be based on click, or it's going to automatically do it however it is that you set it up, however many seconds you said to wait till that you want the next one to come in. You have full control of that. So we don't have to manually be doing it unless you want to. You can say click to advance, or you can actually do timing. So where it says start is where you can choose, do you want it to be automatic on click, or do you want it to actually be based on after the previous? So we could say after previous, and it's going to automatically do it based on the settings that we give it. Just so you know, you could do that, all depending on what it is that you want to have happen. Okay. You got to practice so it knows. You know how long do you need before it goes to the next one. And by the way, advanced settings, you can actually have it come in, because what if you were doing a top 10 and you wanted to start at the bottom and bring in number 10, then 9, then 8, then 7? You can actually do that. You would need to go into where it says animation pane. Go to the animation pane, and on the right hand side of the animation, you get this drop down menu, and you can go into advanced animation timing. You can go into effect options. So just so you could see, you've got all these additional options. So if I wanted to reverse the order, I go into this text animation in reverse order. It would bring in number 10, then 9, then 8, and work its way up the list. Just so you could see, you could do that. Lots of different options depending on what it is you need. So that's animation. You can go to any slide, add animation to whatever object you want to add it into. I'm going to do one more animation before we move to our next topic here. I'm going to select this entire object. It's an image. And I'm going to go to the animations tab, and I'm actually going to go to the drop down. We have emphasis, we have exit, we have motion pass. So if I actually want this object, which I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, I want this object to actually follow a motion path. I could use a line, an arc, whatever. And if I click arc, it's going to automatically move that object in an arc, which is this right here. And I can actually move where I want it to start, where I want it to end, just so you could see. And let me show you how that's going to look when I run this. Whoop. So just so you can see, you could do things like that. It's pretty crazy, the options that we have. Now, that wasn't doing a very big arc. I might want to arc it a little bit more, but just so you could see, we could do that. Now, I just deleted it because I decided I didn't want it. I want to show you a different option. If I go back to animations on this object again, maybe I want it to bounce or I want it to swirl. Just so you can see, you could do those kind of things. Because if I'm having something be really exciting or whatever, I could have it shrink and grow. I could have it spin. I can have it do anything that I want. And the best part is you have timing that you can set up on when do you want it to animate. So I could have it do one animation and then add another as well. So if I go back to the animations, I've already added one animation, and I'll just say I wanted to shrink and grow. And then I wanted to do a different animation. I go to add animation. And then maybe after it shrinks and grows, I want it to fill with a different color, or I want it to, do a different action. I could choose teeter or whatever I want it to do. We can have multiple actions be added in. Let me run this again just so you can see what it's going to do. Now, would I do all these different animations like this? Not always, but just so you could see, I could. So I did 3 different animations just so you could see that I could do that. Not always appropriate on everything that you do, but every object can be animated. It doesn't animate a slide. You have to choose the object you want to animate. So you click the object, you animate an object, not a slide. Transitions go on slides. Animation is on objects. So whether it's a text object, it's a image, it's a chart, it's a smart art object. And let me quick show you a smart art object. I'm going to take this smart art object and I'm going to animate it. And I'm going to say I want one thing to come in at a time, and I want it to come in from the left. And I want it, oops, sorry. I want it to come in one by one. Just so you could see, you could do that. So you could do that with charts where you could say, I want this series to come in one at a time, and this is how I want it to come in from the left, the right, the top, the bottom, whatever your case might be. So you can animate pretty much anything that you want to animate. All depends on what you want. Okay. Now, I had talked earlier about sections in your presentation. On the left-hand side, when I'm in this normal view, I can see I have a section at the top called Intro. I'm going to right-click on where it says Intro, and I'm going to say Remove All Sections. So when you first start with the presentation, you don't have any sections in it. If I have slides that are related to each other, like these first 2 slides, I'm going to select these first 2 slides, and I'm actually going to go to slide 2, I guess, and I'm going to right-click and I'm going to say Add Section. So it's going to add a section, and I can give it a name, and I'm going to say Intro. And then I'm going to press Enter. And now I can go to slide 3, and I'm going to say, because I want 1 and 2 to be part of the intro section, I'm going to right click on slide number 3, and I'm going to say Add Section. And this is going to be related to the name of the speaker, or it could be what the topic is, whatever it is that you want to organize your slides based on. And maybe slide 7, I want to start a different speaker's name. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say Add Section, and I'm going to say this is going to be Taylor. So if Taylor decides that Taylor's going to do their slides first, and we want to take the name of the speaker to be second, we can move those presentation slides. So I'm going to shrink them up, and I'm going to click and drag Taylor up underneath Intro. So every slide that was a part of Taylor is now coming before the slides with name of speaker, which I can see there's 98 in Taylor, and name of speaker group has 4. We can expand or collapse these groups at any time. So if I'm working on this set of slides right now, I could shrink up the other sections so I don't have to see them. And just so you know, if I go back to change my view to slide master, or slide sorter, I should say, here's going to be the first 2 slides. I can expand out this section. I can expand out this section. So you can be organized in other views with these sections as well. So pretty great that we have those capabilities. I use sections based on my topics, and sometimes my presentations have 10 different topics. I could have 10 different sections, including an intro section and a closing section, all depending on what you want. But sometimes I will do it based on speakers, because if I'm having a presentation that's going to be 3 different speakers, I can have each section be based on each speaker so that all their slides are together and we know which slides are for who. It makes it so much easier, especially if somebody says, hey, can I go last instead? We could just rearrange all those slides at once based on that whole section instead of one slide, or grouping our slides and doing it that way. So lots of advantages, I feel, with using these sections. But what if you have a presentation that you want that is really going to be needing to hide a slide? I don't really need all slides to be part of my presentation. Like, I'm going to run this presentation for a leadership group, and they don't need to see this outline, this course outline slide. They don't need it. They know what's in it. I could go to slide 2 and right click. And then from this pop-up menu, I could say hide slide. Then I could actually run the presentation and I'm on slide 1, and then it's going to go to slide 2, but it skips because we hit it. So if we hide a slide, when you go to run the presentation, it's going to automatically hide that slide. Well, let's say that now I'm going to do a presentation to the whole entire organization, and I need that slide. So I'm going to go back and right click again, and I'm going to say unhide slide. So now when I run the presentation, it will see that slide when I run it. Well, that's a lot of having to go back and forth. If I'm going to be doing the same presentation to different audiences, and one audience only needs these slides, a different audience needs a different set of these slides, you can actually create what is called custom shows. By going to the slideshow tab of the ribbon, we can go over to this custom slideshow. And I don't have any created right now, so I'm going to click on custom shows. Then I can click new to create a new slideshow. So I'm going to call this one leadership. So this is the show that I want to have available just for when I do the leadership presentations. They only need to see slide 1, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to the left-hand side, and I can actually select the slides that I want to have available for them. They only need to see less than 1. So I select those slides, I click add, it adds them to the right-hand side. Then I click OK, and I now have this show created just for leadership. But if I want to have a different presentation for the HR department, I could click new again. I could name the custom show, and I'm going to call it HR department. I'm just abbreviating, and they need to see these slides. So I select the slides that they need to see. I click my add button. I click OK. Now I have 2 different presentations out of this one that I can run whenever I need it. I'm going to go ahead and click close. Now, how do you run it? What if I'm going to do a leadership presentation? I can go back to that custom slideshow. I see the 2 names of the custom shows I just created. I can click leadership. And when it runs this presentation, it's only running with the slides I had chose. It's skipping over all the other slides. So that is something that I use on a very regular basis, because a lot of times we have one presentation. And I used to work for this convenience store chain in the Midwest, and they would go around and do presentations at different locations, and all the employees would come. They would do different presentations for just the managers, that kind of a thing. But it was all based on one presentation. They didn't have 10 presentations, because a lot of times the same group needed to see the same slides. We're not going to have multiple presentations that we have to update all the time. Just makes it so much easier to use a custom show. So if that is a feature you have never used before, it has saved me so much time, so many headaches. I absolutely love it. But I don't know if you knew this. If I go to the slideshow tab again, I'm going to go to where it says set up slideshow. Every time that you do a presentation, by default, we're going to click to advance the slides. It is set up to be a slide type, or a show type, I should say, of presented by full speaker, full screen. But if you want this to actually be kiosk mode, where somebody can actually sit and advance the slides themselves, we can actually put little icons on the slide that gives them an arrow to go to the next slide, an arrow pointing left to go back to the previous slide. You can actually create those. Pretty cool that we have those capabilities. Also, if you want to create this as self-running, let's say you're going to do a trade show. I used to do them all the time for Microsoft, actually. And we could actually say, I want this presented by speaker. We could actually choose loop continuously until you stop the loop. So it can run like a movie. That's when you need transitions with timing, so it knows when to advance to the next one, because somebody's not going to be sitting there clicking the slides. Every slide needs to have a timing to it. So you have to do that transition timing that we talked about earlier. But I don't know if you knew that you could do that. Those are kind of things that are hidden great tools that we can be using with our slideshows. So many times I'm watching someone's so yes, I critique everybody's presentation and I see what they did, and it's like, oh, I want to do that too. Or I'll see something, it's like, well, why didn't they use this automated feature? It would have been a lot easier. So just so you're learning those tricks of the trade of some of these automated features that we do have available. So in your handout, you will find all of the information about everything that we just talked about. I just want to mention back at the beginning, we talked about those layouts. A lot of people, they see layouts, but they don't really understand how beneficial they can really be, because in that master, if you want, every time you're using a title and content, you want that text box to be smaller every single time. You don't manually do it, you do it in the master instead. And don't forget to use transitions and use the timing so you can advance your slides automatically or however you want them to appear visually based on your presentation. But less is more sometimes when it comes to that. And also, of course, you want to be working with your animation. You select an object, then you apply the animation that you want on that specific object. And then we also talked about the fact that you can put sections into your presentation so that you can easily organize your slides. You can collapse and expand your sections, rearrange sections, whatever it is you need. And then, of course, don't forget about setting up the show and doing custom slideshows, because that's going to save you so much time. I've seen people copy a slide, a presentation, and then get rid of slides. But then they need to go back and update both of these slides. And they are going manually to each presentation to update them. Just have one and make custom shows instead.